Once you turn the power off to your machine, anything that's stored on these memory chips is gone. But without these memory chips, without these sticks of memory, your computer wouldn't have any short-term memory, and it wouldn't know what to do, wouldn't know what to do with itself, wouldn't know how to operate. So, you know, it needs this short-term memory. While we're talking about short-term memory, let's look at well, I actually don't have one here, but normally I would have a hard drive here. In fact, I had one sitting right next to me and didn't know it. Here is a Seagate 80 gigabyte parallel ATA hard drive. This would normally sit inside this cage right here and would have one of these ribbon cables hooked up, connected to it, and a 4-pin power cable connected to it. Think of this as long-term memory storage. This is actually what's in your hard drive, and that's another thing. A lot of people call this the case, the whole case. That's another thing my aunts and a lot of family members, and your grandmother probably does. They sometimes will call this the hard drive. This whole case is not the hard drive. This is a hard drive. What is a hard drive? Well, a hard drive is a series, usually 2 or more platters, round, perfectly round, metal or glass with metallic coating, platters that spin on a spindle at a very, very high rate of speed, and they have a little head that moves back and forth over the surface of this disc. It floats on the surface of these platters and reads and writes magnetically ones and zeros, off and on, basically, to the surface of these platters, and that stores your data. That data is stored permanently. Once you store data on one of these drives, it could pretty much be there forever, until either the drive stopped functioning, and even then the data would still be there, there'd just be no way to get to it, or the drive was destroyed physically. So think of this as long-term memory. Whenever you turn the computer off, everything that's on here is still on here. That's your Windows, all your programs, your games, your documents, everything is stored on usually a hard drive. You may have seen here recently, over the last year especially, what they call SSDs, or solid state drives. Well, what they have done is take out the mechanical portion, the spinning disk inside here, and they replace it with chips, very much like the chips that you see on these memory sticks. And what that does is take out any possibility of mechanical failure, and not only that, but it adds a huge speed increase, because you're not waiting for anything, that head, to read and write across the disk. You're retrieving data instantly off of an electronic chip. Very cool technology. Still coming down in price, but a bit expensive for me. So we've gone over motherboard, CPU, case, and memory and hard drive. So if you look right here, in this slot, actually, in fact, we'll go over slots. You see these slots here, these white slots. One of them is filled. That's actually a serial ATA card. It's a type of interface for a hard drive. Anyway, these slots are called PCI slots. Now, motherboards, ever since the beginning of the PC industry in the early 80s, have had slots on them. Used to be, we had long black slots called ISA, that stood for Industry Standard Architecture. That's, you don't see those anymore unless you get a really old computer in, something from the, well, the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. You generally don't see ISA slots anymore. And if you do, it'll be one slot along the bottom. Everything is moved to PCI for general expansion. This is good because PCI provides much greater bandwidth for cards like a serial ATA controller, an extra USB controller, or, you know, there's tons of different cards you can put in. That's the whole idea of these PCI slots, is expansion. There are things like TV tuners, TV and FM tuners. You can listen to the radio or watch TV on your computer. There are all kinds of specialty cards that do all kinds of crazy things. That's the whole point of these slots. Okay, well, we also have slots that are dedicated to video. In the beginning, we had what they called AGP slots. And that's what this motherboard actually has, is an AGP slot. And I'm going to show you that. Here you go. Here you can see this orange slot right here is actually an AGP slot. It stands for Accelerated Graphics Port. Now, believe it or not, this is actually obsolete now too. And it has been for about the past 5 years. This AGP slot, as you might imagine from the acronym, is dedicated for graphics only. It was meant for video cards only, and that generally it came about with the birth of 3D graphics for gamers and people who do computer-aided drafting and things like that, who needed some 3D horsepower, and the PCI bus just did not provide enough bandwidth. Well, they came out with AGP, and that gave us some extra bandwidth. Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, the powers that be, whoever they are, all the geniuses that think all this crap up, came out with something new called PCI Express. Because they didn't like the idea of, and nobody really likes the idea of having a dedicated port just for graphics. I mean, this should be a universal port that could be used for all different kinds of things. Well, that's where PCI Express came in. Now, PCI Express slots look very much like AGP slots. In fact, they look like an AGP slot that's turned around the other direction. I can't really show you that right now, because to show you a PCIe slot, I would have to take my computer apart, and I'm not doing that. But generally, they look very much like an AGP slot, but turned around the other way, flipped over. The PCI Express, let me get my glasses on so I can at least look nerdy. PCI Express was meant to be a replacement for the PCI slot, basically. PCI Express, meaning a PCI slot, but much faster. Much faster, actually. But in general, we haven't really seen that many PCI Express peripherals come out other than video cards. There are a few, you know, like TV tuners and sound cards have started to come out that take advantage of what we call PCI Express ×1 slots or ×4 slots, which is actually a little bitty slot. It's like 1/4 of a PCI slot or PCI Express slot on your motherboard, on today's motherboards. And so generally you'll see that today's motherboards will come with 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 PCI Express ×16, which is a full-length slot, and then they'll have 1 or 2 little bitty slots, which are PCI Express ×1 or ×4 slots. And basically the ×1, ×4, or ×16 refers to the number of data lanes on the bus, and that's, you know, geeky stuff that you don't really need to worry about. So there you go. Your video card, oddly enough, you can kind of think of it as your set of eyes, or your computer set of eyes, except in reverse, because your video card, right here I have an AGP card. This is a 3D, I think it's an NVIDIA GeForce 2MX, which is about 10 years old now. But one of the first or second generation of 3D video cards, and they're responsible for outputting video through a cable that connects to the back of the card, to the back of your computer, and up to your monitor, and is responsible for outputting graphics, and whether it be desktop graphics or a 3D game or whatever, to your monitor, and so you can see and interact with your computer.